I checked out Orphan First Kill. It's a horror film that was directed by William Brent Bell. That's the prequel to Orphan that dropped in '09. The film's heavy, sinister vibe made it hard to believe that it was inspired by real life events of adults posing as children to finesse people. In the first film, Orphan, it was revealed by an employee at the Sarn Institute that Esther's real name was Lena Klammer, and she was not the 9-year-old girl she claimed to be. Lena was a 31-year-old Russian woman that was born in 1976 that suffered from a rare condition called hypopituitarism. The condition causes proportional dwarfism, so people suffering from it are usually smaller and look younger than they really are. Not much is known about Lena's upbringing, but at the Sarn Mental Institute, where she was being held at, she was labeled a mentally ill, homicidal con artist that used her illness to pass off as a little girl for the majority of her life to finesse people. Her crazy ass got locked up at the mental institution after she snaked a family in her hometown of Estonia into adopting her, then later sent the fam to the afterlife and set their home ablaze after failing to seduce the father. That seemed to be her MO. Each time she weaseled her way into a family, she tried to seduce the man of the house. Then after getting rejected, she'd try and kill the whole fam in a jealous rage. She was a straight up menace that got up and close with her victims, usually pummeling them to death with a blunt object like a hammer or gruesomely stabbing them to death. But she wasn't afraid to get the strap and catch a body either. Also, she kept a Bible from the Sarn Institute that she stashed photos of her past victims in. At the Sarn institution, she was considered one of their most violent patients that had to be placed in a straitjacket to prevent her from hurting others. The straitjacket dug into her skin and left her with scars on her wrists and neck because she was always fighting to get out of it. To avoid detection, she wore ribbons over her scars at all times and went as far as to wear pull-out dentures to hide her extra dusty adult teeth. She also tied down her breasts and wore makeup to look more youthful. What's crazy is that, other than the way she looked, she never tried to hide her personality or dumb herself down. She was smart, had an extensive vocabulary, dressed like a grown-ass woman, drew amazing paintings, and was even an expert piano player, which is more than enough red flags to call her out on her BS. Lena escaped the institute by seducing and killing a guard, then outside its walls, she went back to doing what she did best. Deceiving people about her age, identity theft, and murder. After she hid in the vehicle of a newcomer to the Sarn Institute and later snuffed the poor lady out, she searched for missing American girls in her victim's home and found she resembled a 9-year-old girl from a wealthy family named Esther Albright who had gone missing. She then fooled authorities that she was Esther and had been abducted and brought to Russia to avoid being tracked down. Once she joined Esther's rich fam in the States, the film took a seriously dark turn after Esther was recruited by her new adoptive mom, who was involved in hiding the fact the real Esther met her demise at the hands of her older brother in order to fool her husband. But Esther eventually had to body the whole fam and smoke their base to avoid being killed by her evil adoptive mother and lunatic brother. The Orphan shows that Esther was readopted by another loving family about a year later, but was terminated by her adoptive mother after she tried to smoke the fam in a jealous rage after she failed to seduce her adoptive pops. Part of the film's inspiration comes from the case of Barbora Skrlova. Her case went viral after a 13-year-old boy named Adam from Norway went missing, but authorities later discovered that the adopted boy was actually a 33-year-old woman named Barbora Skrlova from Czech Republic. She stole the boy's identity to avoid arrest for her past child abuse crimes, and similar to Esther, Barbora also suffered from hypopituitarism and used it to her advantage to lie about her age. Not much is known about her past, but she was about 33 and able to deceive people that she was a child, fleeing from abuse to take advantage of people. As a young woman, she was hospitalized in a psych facility because of her psychotic and violent traits, but no one knows when or why she was released. In her hometown, she conned two sisters named Clara and Katerina Morova into adopting her. Both sisters showed signs of mental illness, so they were easy targets for her to manipulate. The nutcase lied that her name was Annika and she was a homeless youth. The sisters allowed her to move into their home out of sympathy, and soon after moving in, Barbora became jealous of the attention Clara gave her two young boys, so she fabricated stories about the boys misbehaving and bullying her so that she could punish them. The boys' abuse started off with beatings with belts, but got so extreme that they were starved, stripped naked, gagged, and left to sleep in their own shit while they were tied up and locked up in cages in the family basement. On top of all that, the only time the boys bathed is when a bucket of cold water was tossed over their cages. Clara was convinced to abuse her young boys by Barbora, who used a cosign from a fake doctor that recommended abuse as therapy for her boys through text messages. Also, allegedly, Barbora decided to take her torture game to the next level by convincing the fam to take the boys to an isolated cottage in a forest where for 8 days they were straight up tortured by Barbora's demonic family cult called the Grail Movement that was led by her father. She claimed that the abuse was necessary to cleanse the boys so that Annika could be adopted by the family. The boys were hogtied, burned, held in cages, and one had a piece of flesh cut from his ass. Then he and his bro were forced to eat his flesh, and it's believed their mom, aunts, and other cult members ate it too. The boys' torture continued for several months after Annika was adopted until one day a miracle happened. The family's neighbor noticed how badly the boys were being treated on their newly installed baby monitor, which picked up a video signal from a similar monitor in their neighborhood, so they called the authorities. The signal actually came from a baby monitor that Clara installed in her basement to watch her kids. The boys were lucky that the Lord shined his light on them, because they probably would have ended up dead. But shortly after, the cops went door to door searching homes in the area until they searched the right home. The Morova sisters were arrested on child abuse charges after the police discovered the two dirty, starving boys, ages 8 and 10, with belt marks and cigarette burns to their bodies. But Barbora somehow avoided arrest by pretending to be a 12-year-old child that was adopted by the family when the police pulled up. Later, details about her true identity came to light, so with the help of her cult, she was able to escape her foster home and cut to Oslo in Norway with a new identity. In Norway, she began posing as a 13-year-old boy named Adam who had gone missing in the area. Can y'all believe that this ugly, demonic looking creature right here somehow fooled childcare workers, teachers, and even the police for about 4 months by simply shaving her head and tying down her breasts that she was a little boy? That's crazy. I mean, eventually the police and school officials saw through her web of lies. She tried to run but was later arrested and extradited back to the Czech Republic to face her past child abuse crimes. And it's believed that the missing boy's parents helped her pose as their son to fool people. At trial, prosecutors claimed that Clara's sister Katerina was recruited into Barbora's family cult, and she participated in manipulating her mentally ill sister into abusing her sons and adopting a 32-year-old woman posing as a 12-year-old child, because all the texts from the fake doctor came from Katerina's cell phone. All 3 women and the cult members were found guilty of child abuse charges back in 2007, but are now free after serving their time, including Barbora, who only got a pitiful 5 years after all that crazy ish she did. After the Orphan's release, a similar situation came to light in the States, where a family believed they were scammed by a grown woman posing as a 6-year-old girl named Natalia Grace from the Ukraine, who had a rare form of dwarfism which affected her ability to walk properly. Natalia's story went viral, and she even made an appearance on Dr. Phil, where they tried to paint her as a psycho posing as a child. She lived in the States for about 2 years and was let go by her first adoptive fam for undisclosed reasons, but was later readopted by the Barnett family. Soon after they took her in, they claimed to have noticed her bizarre behavior. The Barnetts claimed Natalia had an advanced vocabulary, and for a 6-year-old girl, she never played with toys, which is very weird for a child. She also had adult teeth, pubic hair, and her period monthly, which they claimed she tried hiding. And as time passed, she got hella violent and threatened to kill the family. At night, they couldn't even sleep because she stood over them, so they had to hide all the sharp objects in their household. The Barnetts also claim she tried to poison them by pouring bleach in their coffee. They also said that at one point she admitted to being 18 to a doctor and that it was fun to terrorize her family. After all this crazy ass behavior and more, the The Barnetts became convinced that they unknowingly adopted a psycho adult dwarf, so they checked out her old medical records and ran tests on her that confirmed she was at least 14, but most likely older. They then were able to legally change her age to 22 so that she could be cut off from their family. They then rented her out an apartment and paid the rent for a year, then dipped to Canada, but were later charged with child neglect after she was evicted from that apartment and claimed to the police she was abandoned by her family. What's crazy is I don't even think my 9-year-old niece would be able to survive living in an apartment for a year by herself. But Natalia claimed she did that at 6 years old. Eventually, she was readopted by another family, but this situation is still playing out in the courtroom, so we'll have to wait and see what the courts decide. As for the Barnetts, this situation destroyed their marriage and they are now divorced. Christine Barnett says the events of the Orphan is exactly what happened to her, but Michael Barnett says he knew Natalia was a child the whole time and it was Christine that was trying to convince everyone that she was not. But y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Was Natalia just a misunderstood child? Or is she a crazy ass old bird finessing families for a free place to stay? The film had similarities with both of these two insane stories, except they took it to the extreme to make it thrilling, violent, and bloody enough for me to run it 3 mics. Let me know what y'all thought about Orphan First Kill in the comments below. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe. I have movie related content dropping every week, so lock in with me by hitting that like and subscribe button, and I'm gonna get up with y'all on the next video, alright? Holla at me. I came from uptown, way uptown. Renegade, I came from uptown, way uptown. I came from uptown, way